Tell me if this sounds familiar. Someone turns on a boxing match. The whole room leans in. People are yelling, spilling drinks, losing their minds over two guys hitting each other. And you're sitting there thinking, why does anyone actually enjoy this? You don't say it out loud. Because somehow, in a room full of boxing fans, you're the weird one. You're the one who just doesn't get it. But here's what nobody talks about. The psychology of people who don't like watching boxing is far more revealing than the psychology of people who do. Because choosing not to enjoy something the whole world seems to love, that's not emptiness. That's actually a signal. And today we're going to decode exactly what that signal means. Let's start with what science says about pain and pleasure on screen. When you watch two people fight, your brain does something fascinating. It mirrors what it sees. Neuroscientists call this the mirror neuron system. Your brain literally simulates the experience of the person you're watching. For some people, watching a punch land triggers a small rush of adrenaline. Exciting. For others, that same punch activates a stress response. Their nervous system doesn't say thrilling. It says threat. This isn't weakness. It's wiring. Research on sensory processing sensitivity shows that roughly 20% of the population has a nervous system that processes stimulation more deeply than average. Every impact, every cut, every moment of visible pain. Their brain doesn't filter it as entertainment. It registers it as real. And that changes everything about how a sport feels to watch. First insight: high empathy doesn't turn off during competition. Most people can compartmentalize. They watch a fighter take a brutal hit and think, that's sport. But people with high empathic accuracy, the ability to feel what others feel almost involuntarily, can't fully separate the human being from the performance. They see a man's legs buckle and their body responds before their mind can rationalize it away. Psychologists at the University of Michigan found that individuals who score high on empathy measures consistently report lower enjoyment of contact sports as spectators. Not because they're soft, because their emotional intelligence is running at full capacity. They're not watching a sport. They're experiencing someone else's pain in real time. And that's not fun. That's exhausting. Second insight: some minds are built to ask why, not who wins. Boxing is a sport of outcomes. Who lands more? Who falls first? Who survives? But a specific type of mind, what cognitive researchers call a need for cognition personality, is less interested in outcomes and more interested in systems, causes, meanings. These people watch a boxing match, and instead of feeling the tension of the fight, their brain starts generating questions. Why did these two men end up here? What does it say about a society that turns human damage into entertainment? What happens to these athletes in 20 years? That's not a failure to enjoy boxing. That's a mind that finds depth more stimulating than spectacle. And that same trait, by the way, tends to correlate with higher creativity, stronger analytical thinking, and a preference for stories over statistics. Third insight: the discomfort isn't about violence. It's about consent and context. Here's something most people never examine. Many people who don't enjoy boxing have no issue with action movies, martial arts films, or even combat in video games. So it's not simply the presence of hitting that bothers them. It's something more specific. The combination of real bodies, real consequences, and an audience cheering for damage. Psychologists who study moral emotions describe this as a violation of care ethics, a deep intuitive feeling that enjoyment shouldn't be built on someone else's suffering, even when that suffering is chosen. People who feel this strongly tend to have highly developed moral reasoning. They're not judging fans. Their own internal compass just won't let them separate the spectacle from the cost. Fourth insight: boredom isn't disinterest. It's a different kind of attention. Ask someone who doesn't like boxing what they find boring about it, and they'll often say, it's just the same thing over and over. And from the outside, that sounds like an attention problem. But what's actually happening is the opposite. Their brain is pattern recognizing too fast. The repetition of the format, two people, a ring, rounds, judges, a decision, gives their mind nothing new to process after the first few minutes. Research on optimal stimulation theory shows that people with higher baseline cognitive arousal need more novelty, more complexity, more narrative variation to stay engaged. Boxing, with its deliberate structure and physical focus, simply doesn't feed that need. These are often the same people who read 3 books at once, jump between creative projects, and find small talk genuinely painful. Their brain isn't understimulated in life. It's actually running hot. And boxing just doesn't give it enough to do. Now, here's what all 4 of these insights have in common. They're not personality flaws. They're features. High empathy, deep analytical thinking, strong moral sensitivity, a hunger for complexity. These are the traits that produce great writers, doctors, architects, and people who change things. And none of those traits make boxing feel good to watch. But here's the part nobody says out loud. There's also a quieter reason some people avoid boxing. And it's worth being honest about it. Sometimes the discomfort isn't just empathy or philosophy. Sometimes it touches something more personal. A memory of powerlessness. An experience of watching real violence without the crowd and the referee and the rules that make it a game. For those people, the ring doesn't signal sport. It signals something else entirely. And walking away from that screen isn't avoidance. It's self-knowledge. So the next time someone looks at you sideways because you'd rather do anything else than watch a fight, you don't owe them an explanation. But if you wanted to give one, here it is. You're not missing the point of boxing. You might just be the kind of person whose nervous system takes the world seriously. Who can't watch damage and call it entertainment without something inside you asking questions? Who needs meaning, not momentum? The people who love boxing aren't wrong. And neither are you. You're just wired differently. And in a world that constantly tells you to toughen up, tune out, and enjoy the show, choosing not to is its own quiet kind of strength.
If my thoughts resonate with you, please join the channel. I'm preparing a lot more in-depth content. For those who want to become part of our team and help the project grow, sponsorship is available. Just click Join. This is a huge motivation and a real help for me.